Okay, this is a 7-day challenge for the wellness, and whoever is interested, they could join us every day. Yesterday, we talked about awareness, that being the fundamental. Anybody who is working on that will be able to um, really uh, understand what's the significance of being aware of what is happening in our life now. It could be a pain in the body, it could be a strain in the body, it could be weakness in the body, it could be illness that we have, or any number of things depend upon. First of all, you have to be aware. A lot of people live the life in a lack of awareness. They just go automatically, whatever the mind dictates, they will be doing that, that kind of thing is always happening to them, okay? Whereas people who are aware, they know what's going on with their bodies, what's going on with their mind. They may not have a perfect body, but at least they are aware what's going on, what are the limitations, what are the things that they can do, what are the things that you have to stop. So suppose you have a weak heart and then you are walking upstairs several times, then that's going to stay and give you a heart attack. So people who do the snow here, they do that with a lack of awareness of where their body is, and then they have a heart attack while they're removing the heavy snow sometimes. Okay, so that is what happens with that. You don't want to be really doing that, right? So that kind of thing happens with a lot of people, and a lot of people don't really know what's going on with them, and then they kind of really worry about that. Okay, so that kind of thing is not good. Okay? So being aware of where we are, what it is, what is our age, what is our strength, what is our balance, what is our ability to do some stuff. All these things are important before you really become really important, right? So that kind of thing is very important. That's why awareness is the most important where we are in life, what we are doing with our bodies, with our minds, and all. Now, today we're going to look at the next important thing is attention. Are you able to pay attention to anything? And once you have that, then everything will be much better, right? So think about that, and then you will be able to understand that. Okay. So today we're going to really understand that, and then we will see. Okay. Okay, let me bring up the slides on the Zoom, so, and then you will be able to understand them better. Okay. See, for those who are on the Zoom, some people are joining, they can see the slides now, So I'm going to run through the slides and people can listen to them too, but also they can really understand. Okay? So, so as you see the slides, you will see that the 7-day wellness challenge. The second day, we are doing on the topic of attention, how this whole thing really comes to place, and then how you can understand each slide better by looking at it. Otherwise, you can see the YouTube later, you can see the slides there. Okay. See, attention is billed as the greatest gift we are given as human beings. Okay, we can be attentive to whatever happened in the past, whatever happened in the present, whatever happening in the future, right? uh, Animals can be instinctive. They don't have the memory that much, or constructing from the memory or the future. Okay, so we're going to welcome you back. From yesterday, we explored the foundations of presence and inner awareness, right? Today, we turn towards something even more intimate, the quality of your attention and what it means to truly give it. Okay, day one recap is we examined the nature of awareness, the difference between reacting and responding, right? And why slowing down is not a weakness but a radical act of intelligence. Okay. Today's focus is we go deeper into the neuroscience, the philosophy, and the lived practice of attention. We will explore how attention shapes the healing, and relationships, and every ordinary moment of life. Remember, your son or daughter, they complain, you are not giving us the attention. You are not paying attention to what we say. You are not listening, all that, right? So the same thing with everything else too. Once you understand that what is attention, attention is not merely focus. It is the quality of aliveness you bring to any moment. How alive you are, how awake you are. When you attend to something, a person, a task, or a breath, anything like that, you are offering a portion of your finite, irreplaceable life energy. You are putting the energy into that, right? Selective. See, attention chooses among the thousands of stimuli uh, reaching your senses. It kind of chooses attention. Okay, it decides what matters and what fades into the background. That's why all the energy goes into that. Okay, so it is a generative thing. What you attend really grows. So what I attend to grows. If you pay attention to something like a plant, you give water, you pay attention to its color and put it on the sun and all that. That will help it to grow. Like that, whatever you pay attention to, that grows. So attention is not neutral. It amplifies, nourishes, and brings into being. Okay? The world you inhabit is shaped by where your attention rests. Suppose you are not interested in a movie, you will not go. But if you are interested, you want to pay attention to the movie story, then you enjoy it. Like that. Okay? See, but there is a crisis in the modern attention. We live in an age of unprecedented attention fragmentation, right? The devices in our pockets are engineered by thousands of brilliant minds whose sole purpose is to capture and monetize your focus. Attention economy, they call it, right? This is not accidental, it is architectural. They have phones, they have social media, they have notifications, they have information overload, right? All that is resulting in taking our attention away. And see, the crisis is where 47 interruptions a day, 7-hour daily screen time everybody is spending, and also 77% of them report burnout. That's why we need to understand what is this concentration, what is this attention, and then defining both of them really helps a lot. Okay, these two words, concentration and attention, they're often used interchangeably, right? We don't use them same time. They describe fundamentally different inner states. See, understanding the distinction between the concentration and cultivating genuine attention is very important to really have the attention defined. Okay, concentration is effortful, directed, and narrow. You want to come to one thing among several things, right? It is the mind gripping an object and holding on to it. Okay, through the force of will, you are trying to deliberately focus your everything onto one thing, right? It kind of excludes everything else because it wants to suppress everything else to pay really what you are doing. You want to concentrate on that. Okay, but uh, it is a tool. It requires sustained effort, concentration. It excludes everything and narrowing to one thing and depletes over time. You cannot do it for long, right? And then it is the ego driven and controlled. Whereas attention is effortless, open, and alive. It is the mind resting in awareness without gripping. Okay? It includes rather than excluding anything else. It is aware of everything else, but then knows what it wants to do. It does not tire because it does not stay. It is a quality of being, arises naturally without force, and inclusive and spacious. Okay? And then it renews rather than depletes. Okay? And interpersonal and receptive. Right? So these kind of things. So attention is without effort, without any sense of compulsion, without any motive. That is the highest form of intelligence. So G.T. Krishnamurti spent decades pointing to something radical, that the quality of attention most of us bring to life is diluted by agendas, comparison, and the desire to fix or change what we observe, right? So true attention, as he suggested, require no method, only the willingness to see clearly without the filter of the self that wants things to be otherwise. We want it to be something else, but it's not really what it is. So this is not passive, it is a profound alertness, a listening so complete that the listener dissolves into the listening itself. Very important. Okay. Attention is without effort, and then there is a observer and then observe what is we observe, right? So observation without the observer is attention. Ordinary observation is we look through a point of view, through a judge within us, to ego or whatever, right? Then ordinary observation is observer judges and labels experience. And then when the observer notices its own interference, that becomes a witness. But pure attention is where there is no observer. Observation without a separate observer. You are completely seeing as it is. This shift from observation colored by the self to observation that is the self is not a technique. It is an invitation to notice the space between a perception and the story we immediately weave around it. So we usually color everything around it. That is not there. Okay. So what is, we are going to say, the present fact. What is the ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence. Whatever it is there. If a tree is there, we just don't watch the tree. We say the tree is green, the tree is bright, the tree is having these colors and all that. Okay? But if you look at it without all that interference, then that is attention. Okay? So the ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence. To attend to what is means to rest in the present fact of experience. So, most suffering, as Krishnamurti observed, arises not from the what is happening, but from our resistance to it. Just like Buddha said, it is our reaction that causes suffering. Okay. Once you understand that, you will be able to understand better. And you also understand there are brain networks we create and attention systems are there. So we kind of, modern neuroscience has mapped the architecture of attention with remarkable precision. Far from a single faculty, attention is a dynamic interplay of multiple brain networks, each with its own rhythm, purpose, and vulnerability to resistance. So understanding these systems demystifies why attention wanders, why certain environments support focus, and why presence is both a skill and a biological capacity, one that can be trained, restored, and deepening through practice. So there is the default mode network. When you are not actively engaged in a task, your brain does not go quiet. It shifts into the default mode network, DMN. It's a web of regions associated with mind wandering, self-referential thought, rumination, and daydreaming. It's all going on, right? So What it does is the DMN activates during rest, reflection, memory consolidation, and social cognition. It is the network of the narrative self, the storyteller inside us that weaves our past and future into a continuous sense of identity. It is never staying with what it is. Why it matters for attention is excessive DMN, that is automatic networks forming, they activate and is associated with anxiety, depression, and the chronic sense of distraction. So practices like meditation, deep conversation, and focused craft work quite the DMN. It kind of quiets down, okay? And they restore the clarity and presence of directed attention. That is why it's important, okay? So the executive network is the central executive network. This is CEN, is the brain. It has a command center for directed voluntary attention. So anchored in the prefrontal cortex, it governs our capacity to plan, prioritize, resist distraction, and sustain focus on what matters. Deliberate focus, stress and depletion, and trainability. These are the factors you want to understand. What it does is the CEN enables you to hold a complex task in mind, screen out irrelevant information, and return to a thread of thought when interrupted. The cognitive skill most under siege in the age of notifications. So you are not distracted by the notification because you have a deliberate focus. And then chronic stress, poor sleep, and excessive screen time, they usually measure the and then impair the prefrontal cortex function. Okay, that's why it narrows the window of attention, executive attention, and you have to rest to recover this and not more effort. Okay, that we don't do. We are continuously thinking, right? So trainability is meditation and sustained contemplative practice have been shown to increase this prefrontal gray matter density and strengthen executive network connectivity. Attention is genuinely trainable. Okay, how you focus on what you do, that's important. There's a flow state. In flow state, the distinction between the doer and the doing disappears. That's why you challenge and the skill are balanced, and there's an intrinsic motivation to do well. That's why you are really involved in the work, and there's a timelessness because you don't feel like you are doing anything when you are in a flow state. Okay, that's why it's very important. Good. And there is a new phenomenon called neuroplasticity and the trainable mind. If you have an intention and you practice the intention, there is a structural change that is happening and you gain new capacity. This is the plasticity, molding of the mind. You can do it by your intentional, whatever you are doing, you can bring it to like somebody from a stroke can recover because they are focusing on the tasks that are already gone. The task, the intentional exercise, the intentional focus on that renews the brain structure that was damaged. Okay, this is very important. So you kind of notice every movement of the mind and you retrain. You form new brain that will take over. Okay, so in the medicine, for example, attention in medicine is the healing presence. If the patient feels that we are occupied with something else rather than his problem, when he is with me, with him, they sense that, they feel that. So they feel, oh, Dr. Naz is with me, he's not listening to me. On the other hand, if you bring the presence and then the patient feels that the doctor is listening to me and he paid attention to what I have to say, what my problem is, and he's paying attention to find out the solution. Okay, so a power of complete listening is very important in clinical relationship. Okay, that becomes a healing relationship when the healer comes with his complete presence, fully here, not in thought. He's not thinking something else. And that receptivity, the patient feels that he is received well, his pain is received well, his problems is received well. Then the patient feels like I can open and tell him everything about my problem, and then both resonate each other, and that's why they do good work of planning the healing process and executing the healing process. And in leadership also, attention matters, because when you listen to understand, your presence in high stakes moment is very important, and then it models the attention. Okay, so in parenting, for example, what children experience is whether you are there and paying attention to them, and then they will understand what is important and then go by that. Okay, even in marriage, that is very important. Okay, very important to pay attention to the spouse. Okay, so you start with simple things like attention at meals. Eat mindfully. So you enjoy what you are doing. Sensory awakening. And then satiety signals you are paying attention to. You don't overeat because your hunger is calmed down, and then you kind of respect that inner cycle, right? So it is the important thing to pay attention to what we are eating, how we are eating, what we are enjoying. Okay, you can do during your walking. Suppose you go out for 10-minute walk. Don't engage in listening to the phone. Don't engage in conversation with others, but pay attention to each step you're taking, the sensation that you feel. So pay attention completely. This I recommend to the doctors while they are walking in the corridor from ward to ward or from to floor. Usually it happens, right? Then I tell them pay attention to the touch of your feet to the ground as you lift it up, as you breathe in. All those things are important. So you can start with attention during the meal, attention during the walking, or the breath. You can notice the sense of touch of the air going in and going out. Okay, that really brings you to the present moment. Attention is very important in yoga because the drishti, the focus state, is emphasized. And sensation also is really looked at as an object. Pratyahara, withdrawal of senses happens, not indulgence of senses. Indulgence of senses make you weak, right? So we all know that. So attention during work is protect your time blocks. Don't work all the time with the same thing. And then remove all the triggers that really take you away from what you are doing. And also always do one single task deliberately. And rest as you practice. Okay. So there is a 5 daily practices I recommend is first to get up in the morning, cultivate that morning silence, and then pay attention to the breath. Make it an anchor. What you are breathing in, breathing out, you are aware. And then uh, whenever you converse with anybody, full presence conversation. That's the third one. And then when you're walking, pay attention. And also in the evening, before you go to sleep, review all that you went through and dump it. These 5 practices: morning silence, anchoring the breath, and also full presence conversations, and when you are walking, paying attention, and then evening. These 5 things, if you do daily, then you will be really cultivating a very attentive mind, attentive way of living. Okay, so before we close, take a moment to sit with what has arisen in you today, not to analyze or summarize, but simply notice what landed, what surprised you, what felt like recognition rather than new information. We do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on the experience. Okay, that is John Dewey who said that. Reflection is attention turned inward. You have something you experience and you are reflecting on that. And that means you are turning the attention inward, right? The same quality of open, non judgmental awareness we have explored in relation to breath, body, and others, now directed at the movement of our own understanding. It is how insight settles into wisdom. Okay? Give yourself the gift of 2 minutes of silence, not to produce anything, simply to be with what has been offered today, and to notice what your attention has already begun to do with it. Then you will understand. Then you can have a journal practice. You can write down all the things that you are feeling or you're experiencing inside. That's a good one. Okay. And then uh, tomorrow we're going to go to the next topic. Uh, Begin with the breath. Very important for modern people because they don't breathe properly. They don't breathe deep enough. They don't relax with the breathing. So this is actually uh, uh, important for us to get it. So try to attend that session and cultivate the breath. But today, remember the greatest gift you can give another person is your complete attention. Okay? Not your advice, not your solution, not your history or your expertise, your attention. Full, unhurried, without any agenda. Okay? The gift that costs nothing and means everything. Okay? The gift that says you are worth attending to. People feel that, patients feel that. You are real to me. I am here. So I hope you can give it often. I hope you receive it often. Okay. So with that, thank you. Day two themes have been the nature and neuroscience of attention. And then what is observation, what is observer, and then attention in anything in your leadership, relationship, medical practice, or daily living. Okay. And then I give you 5 daily practices for sustainable attention and health. Okay. And morning silence before any of the screens you open up. And then breath anchoring as the transitions. And one day, one fully present conversation daily. Daily, one conversation fully present. And then be attentive to the walking that you do every day. And then in the evening, reflection without any judgment, and then emptying your mind. All these things help you. Okay. Wherever you are, be all there. Jim Elliot. Remember that. Wherever you are, be all there. Complete attention. Okay. So with that, I'll take leave for today, and then we'll do this third day tomorrow. Thank you. Is there outlet? ಶ್ರದ್ಧೆಗೆ ಬೆಟ್ಟ